really my heart and passion to help moms overcome this struggle because I went through it myself. And so after I recovered from my own struggle of postpartum depression and anxiety, it just lit a fire in me to really become a resource. The second symptom that you'll see is just hopeless and discouraged. We start to feel hopeless and discouraged about being able to make it as a mom, feeling hopeless and discouraged that we'll ever feel like ourselves again. And it's just a really scary, dark space.
Welcome everybody to RecoveryTV Live. I'm Josh Nichols. I'm here with my co-host Carrie Kiger, and we're going to talk about postpartum depression today. We have a really special guest with us today, someone in our community that has made her niche working with women dealing with postpartum depression and other postpartum issues. And she does a lot of other things too. Her name is Truong. She's a licensed professional counselor and a licensed alcohol and drug counselor. She's in private practice. She's dedicated to helping new moms overcome postpartum depression and anxiety. Diane, welcome.
Hi, thank you
to
so much
RecoveryTV Live.
Yeah.
Thank you for being here.
I'm excited to be here.
Tell us a little bit about lasting change therapy, about your practice.
Yeah, it's really my heart and passion to help moms overcome this struggle because I went through it myself. And so after I recovered from my own struggle of postpartum depression and anxiety, it just lit a fire in me to really become a resource and to really help women who is currently going through what I had been through, but just really didn't know what to do. But there's a part of you that's like grieving your old life, trying to adjust to this new identity, and then you feel like a bad person for not fully just completely enjoying this moment like we're told we're supposed to.
Right.
The big question for everybody is, what is postpartum depression? You know, how do you describe it for people to understand it?
So postpartum depression really comes with 6 main symptoms, and I had all of these symptoms during my personal struggle. And they really distinguish it from the baby blues, which really almost all moms have. Over 80% will have some kind of just mood swings, adjustments within the first 2 to 3 weeks. But beyond the 3 weeks, if you're still having these symptoms, that's when they officially categorize it as postpartum depression. But I can honestly say, like, probably within the first 2 days, I just knew something was off. And almost all of my women, you'll hear us say something like, I just don't feel like myself. So the first symptom that you really see that's really common is you're just feeling sad and down and kind of like this detached, not like yourself kind of feeling. I was crying more than I've ever had in my entire life during this first month of motherhood, because there's just sad and down on a regular basis. The second symptom that you'll see is just hopeless and discouraged. We start to feel hopeless and discouraged about being able to make it as a mom, feeling hopeless and discouraged that we'll ever feel like ourselves again. And it's just a really scary, dark space. And the longer we stay in the hopelessness, then it feels like, what's the point of living? And so that really goes hand in hand with the suicidal thoughts. The third symptom that's really common that comes up for people is just this low self-esteem. Like, you think all the other moms are doing it better than you. Like, I'm doing this all wrong. Why is it so easy for everyone else and it's such a struggle for me? And so that comes with a lot of the shame and guilt as well. The fourth symptom that comes up for people is just a loss of motivation to engage with the baby, a loss of motivation to engage with life. So they may even isolate from friends, just disengage from the world. And then the fifth symptom is just a loss of pleasure in life, loss of satisfaction. It's like like for me, I could see like everything that I really enjoyed, which like springtime was my favorite season, and that was when I had my daughter, but it all just felt kind of gray. Like I didn't love it like I used to. I didn't enjoy the sunny days that were cool and like the colors even felt different. It was just a loss of satisfaction. The sixth symptom is not postpartum depression necessarily, but it is anxiety. Anxiety is actually the #1 postpartum symptom.
Oh, wow.
And so it's probably more accurate to call it postpartum anxiety because it is at the forefront of all of the symptoms, but we'll see it come with all of the other depressive symptoms as well.
Can you talk about postpartum psychosis and how that connects and is similar or connected to, but maybe also different?
Right. So I feel like postpartum psychosis is what's really shown in the media, but it's really quite rare. It's 1 to 2 cases in 1,000 of cases. While postpartum anxiety and depression, in Oklahoma, it's 1 in 5.
Oh, wow.
So the psychosis that's magnified in our society really isn't common in what you see with most women with postpartum depression. And so psychosis is when after they have their baby, they start to develop delusional symptoms or hallucinations. So the delusional symptoms are they have these beliefs that don't quite align with reality. And if you ever hear any cases of a mom that has harmed the baby, it would be due to a case of postpartum psychosis, where in that moment the delusion may be, you know, if I take this baby's life, I'm actually saving it from suffering. This baby is possessed, and so if I take its life, I'll save its soul.
Right.
And they fully believe that in that moment. Because of that delusion, they truly think they're helping the baby.
Right.
But the large majority of cases, 99% of moms will not have those symptoms.
Right.
So with postpartum anxiety, you'll see a lot of times like intrusive thoughts where it feels like it's postpartum psychosis. But if they're having thoughts like, oh, I'm gonna hurt the baby, I'm gonna sexually abuse the baby, something bad's gonna happen, but it comes with anxiety, then those thoughts don't align with their values.
Right.
There's actually zero risk of the moms with the intrusive thoughts harming their babies.
Right.
But if the mom had those thoughts and then they say, oh, this feels right, this is the right thing to do, I don't have anxiety about it, this is the best thing I could do for my baby,
Right.
then that's the warning sign, that's the danger zone on get them inpatient, get them seen right away, get them on some medications.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
So-
we overreact with the intrusive thoughts with postpartum anxiety for
Right.
moms.
Okay, sure. I think it's really important for you to say that and for people to
Yes.
hear us say that. You know, if you're having the anxiety around, oh my gosh, am I going to hurt my baby? Am I not doing this well? And to normalize that, like you're saying,
Right.
like, yeah, that's part of this transition from not being a parent to being a parent.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's also real important for men to hear that message, to men and partners that are not mothers, you know, that have not birthed the baby. Let me say it that way. And I think it's real important for them to hear that too, because I think, and this is what I want to get into next, is talking about some common misconceptions, because I think that might be a very common misconception is that, oh, if my spouse or partner is battling postpartum depression, they're going to harm my child, and we know that can happen, but that's what you're talking about is postpartum psychosis, but that is not the most common form. It like you said, it's much more or less common than the depression and anxiety piece. So what are some of the other common misconceptions around this battle, this condition?
I think that's the biggest one, is thinking that postpartum depression is people who want to harm their babies.
Right.
Or even that postpartum depression are moms who don't like their babies.
Yeah.
Or, you know, are completely detached because, like I said, the postpartum anxiety is actually the most common symptom. So more often than not, you see like an obsession with protecting the baby. It's like, I love them so much and I don't want anything bad to happen to them.
Right.
That's a lot more common than
Right.
not liking your baby or wanting to harm them, which is like, I just want to completely remove that from postpartum depression.
Right.
That it's not a
It's like
desire
a-
to harm your baby.
Right.
And with postpartum anxiety, when it comes with the scary intrusive thoughts, to know that there's no risk of those moms harming their babies, even if they're having these really scary thoughts. So like you said, if partners are hearing like, oh my gosh, I'm seeing this knife and I'm having this intrusive thought that I'm going to hurt the baby with it.
Right.
the worst thing we could actually do is then remove the baby from the mom and like
Right.
overly protect her
Right.
from it, because
Right.
one of the treatments is actually exposure. Have her, despite that thought, continue to engage with the baby, continue to hold the baby, and
Yeah.
then she'll see that, oh, we're actually going
Right.
to be okay through
Right.
this.
That thought is
Yeah.
like just a thought.
That thought's just a thought.
Yeah.
It's not a serious risk.
Right.
Yeah, and what I like about that
At
idea
all.
too is reassigning meaning to what thoughts mean, because when we have intrusive thoughts, because there's a lot of conditions that
Right.
we deal with as therapists where people are dealing with intrusive thoughts, and when we can recognize that thought and behavior are not the same thing,
Exactly.
and that sometimes you can't control your thoughts a lot of times as much as you can control your emotions. You know, so the more we can reassign meaning onto what a thought is actually,
Great
and
point.
it doesn't say anything about me.
Right.
You know, it just
Yeah.
says I'm human. That's about it,
Yeah.
though, right?
Such a
And maybe
good
it tells
point.
me I'm struggling a little bit, and I
Right.
need to pay attention to it to the extent of that, not to overreact to it, but just say, well, that's interesting. Like I might want to reach out and talk to someone about what's going on for me right now.
Right. I love
You know,
that.
what is your body trying to tell you, in
Yeah.
other words? What's your mind trying to tell you?
Right.
It's not trying to tell you you're a bad mom. It might just be trying to tell you that you're struggling, you're suffering
Yeah.
a little bit.
Exactly. What you're talking about is like redefining the meaning of the thoughts, where the thoughts don't define you as a person. It
Right.
doesn't define your values.
Absolutely, yeah.
And most moms with the intrusive thoughts actually take extra precautions to make sure the baby's okay. Like, I want to make sure,
Yeah,
you know,
Right.
people
Yeah.
are actually around. I'll hide all the knives. I'll
Sure.
actually be overly cautious
Right.
to even decrease any chance of harm.
Right.
Absolutely.
There's actually a function to it, right? It's like any kind of work that we're doing around anxiety. It's like, well, what's the function of that thought? Is it to get you to be more careful? Is it to
Right.
reach out? Does it represent
Exactly.
emotion that you're feeling? And how do you
Right.
process that emotion, right?
And knowing the intrusive thoughts are just a symptom of the anxiety, and once you treat the anxiety, the intrusive thoughts will get better too.
Right.
It
And that's a
doesn't mean
good,
anything
yeah,
more than that.
good punctuation
that's
around
great.
that.
Yeah, that's a great thing to hear. I hope everybody heard that.
Yeah.
You know, I think another misconception people could have has to do with the biological aspect of it. That they call it postpartum depression because it's happening after women have babies. One reason why I think that's important to remember is to debunk this idea that you can control it when it happens. There's a lot going on emotionally, physically. Your body's recovering from a pretty big trauma, right?
Exactly. Yeah, there's that biological piece, but it's recognizing that motherhood's freaking hard. It's the hardest adjustment, I think, that we'll ever have in our lives, that nothing can quite prepare us for. And so those messages that I received myself and the women that I've worked with is, you gotta be strong for your baby. Just, you just gotta get up and do this. You brought this baby into the world and you just gotta get better for it, like it's a choice. Because it's
Yeah.
really not like, who would choose this? Who would choose to suffer in this dark space after we have our baby?
Right.
It's
Sure.
just not that easy.
Right.
And the analogy I like for it is like, if someone was having some kind of infection, cancer, some medical illnesses, we don't just tell them like, just be more positive. Why don't you just pull yourself up by
Yeah.
your bootstraps and get
Yeah.
over it?
Stop having cancer.
Yeah.
How about that?
Outthink cancer.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah,
going to need
mind over
support.
matter, right.
They're going to need antibiotics. They're going to
Right.
need some
Right.
help. They're going to need some guidance
Sure.
through it to
Yeah.
get better. You can't sit
Yeah.
in a corner and will it away.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
And of course, to have compassion toward people that fall into that trap. We get and understand that emotional wounds and emotional conditions, are ambiguous because you can't see them, you can't touch them like you can. You can have if you have cancer, you can have a scan done, you can see it. They sometimes can go in and remove it. And this is much more ambiguous, so it's harder for people to understand. But I do think it is important for people to not put that added pressure. It's one thing to feel bad; it's another thing to feel bad about feeling bad.
Exactly.
Right.
You already feel bad and that's terrible, and then
Right.
you're giving these shame messages to feel bad about
Absolutely.
feeling bad. That makes it a
Yeah.
lot worse. Yeah.
There's a certain quote I wanted to bring up to you that in just kind of researching this a little bit for you to come on, that just seemed to keep coming up. So I want to share that and just kind of get your thoughts on it a little bit. So I'm putting it here on the screen. It says, referring to postpartum depression, Catherine Weisner, who's quoted saying this is an illness that takes away a woman's ability to experience joy right at the time she needs it most.
It's like such a scary, dark space filled with anxiety. You can't sleep, you've lost your confidence, you've lost your identity. And so it feels like the opposite of joy.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the second piece of that quote is when they need it the most.
Right. That's one that kind of makes it sting a little bit.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
we want it the most because I feel like that's almost the expectation of society, that I really want us to stop giving moms these messages. Like, just think of, when you're pregnant, when you're about to have the baby, it's like you're gonna feel the greatest love you'll ever feel. It's gonna be the most meaningful time in your life. Nothing's gonna be more fulfilling than that for you. Oh my goodness, congratulations, you've just had a baby. Are you just so in love? Like, these messages give us the expectation that we should almost just be perfect, always happy, always loving, always kind towards your baby. When the truth is, you just brought home this roommate that's yelling at you, not communicating to you, pooping on you, taking your sleep, taking your peace of mind, taking your identity. And it's okay to sometimes feel frustrated and not complete joy. It's okay to feel angry at your baby. I think it's hard for moms to admit to that.
It is.
It doesn't make you a bad mom, it makes you human.
Yeah,
it's okay to have feelings other than joy around this time.
I like that.
I like that too. I think we've got to start talking about that too. I mean, everybody, family members, friends, but even amongst women, to be able to say, I'm struggling with this, or I don't like this, or
I know, it kind of sucks right now that it's not always the best bonding experience that you always love. It's a big sacrifice. And it's really allowing ourselves, like I had a client who said, I went to my doctor, I was struggling, and the most healing thing she said to me was, right now your baby's a parasite. It's leaching off of you right now, so it's okay to feel just drained, exhausted. You can't get a break right now because they solely rely on you to live, and so it's okay to have some of these frustrations and wanting a break from it.
Right.
Sure.
Absolutely.
And that transition is so, I've worked with lots of clients, and I've said this many times, to recognize that this creature can't live without you. They're totally and utterly, completely reliant on you to survive.
That's a big job.
That's the biggest
That's
job you've ever
overwhelming.
done. Sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Great point.
Yeah.
Well, so for people that are watching this, and they're watching this and they're hearing some of those symptoms you talked about, or they're relating to your experiences or some of the work that you've done with other people, what would you suggest that they do now? Like, if they're recognizing, I think I might be going through this, what is the next step for them?
I think an important first step is to just talk about it with someone that you feel like would be understanding. Because sometimes when we're sharing about it with our spouse and they don't get it, or our moms and they don't get it, it can make things worse when you're hearing messages like, stop worrying so much, everything's fine, just calm down. Like, that actually makes your symptoms worse. And so it's really seeking out like an online support group, other moms who have been through it. Like, the first thing that had helped me so much was I talked to a friend of mine who's a psychiatrist, but her niece went through postpartum depression and anxiety. And then talking to her and hearing that she went through all of my same symptoms, and now she's feeling great and she's feeling like herself again. Like, that was my first just glimpse of hope that I can do it too.
Right. Yeah. And I think that's really important. And for the people that are watching, I've been to Tyan's website, I've been to her Facebook page, and I would say let's put up a bunch of links in the comment section to where to all these support groups. But I really would just tell people watching this, I'm gonna go ahead and put your Facebook link on there. Go like her on Facebook, go check out her website, because she's got all that stuff on there. I went and checked it out myself. And it's a great one-stop shop. Even if you're not in our community and you can't go see her personally, I'm almost certain, just like most of us, we're willing to steer you in the right direction.
Right.
And so please check that out
and I have a
things like
Facebook
that.
group that's just for moms. It has like 307 local moms now on there.
Great.
Oh, wonderful.
And there's a program that I've added on it that's a mentorship program where
Mm-hmm.
it's just mom to mom. Moms who have recovered have signed up to become the mentor, and then the mentee or mom's currently struggling, they can just connect with them and Facebook message, text, and it's all free.
Right.
And it's
Yeah.
just
Oh,
a
that's
social
wonderful.
resource there.
Good.
Absolutely, that's really
Good.
cool. I did not know that. That
Yeah,
is
that's
really
amazing.
neat. So again, let me put that back on the screen. Go to her Facebook page and like that,
Yeah.
and then from there, I'm sure you can navigate through and
Yeah, the
find.
group is on there too.
And figure out and check out all those resources that you can find just right there
Right.
on your Facebook page. I really appreciate
Yeah.
you coming on and talking to us about that. But let's get to the Fast Five round. So the very first question here is, name somebody, or who is somebody that that's dead or alive, but you've never met them, that you would like to have dinner with.
I would love to meet Oprah.
Yeah.
Like,
That's a good one.
yeah, like ever since I was a little girl, she's been my inspiration, where it's this woman of color who is successful and thriving in her life. And me being a woman of color myself, I thought, if she can do it, I can make something of myself too.
What is a fun word to say?
A fun word to say.
Everybody does that.
I know they have to
Everybody
think of
repeats the
that.
question
Yeah,
on that
I know.
one.
You have to really
Everybody does.
think.
It's a question you don't ever really quite think of. A
know.
fun word to say.
I think of that all the time.
You
I
do?
don't know what, yeah, every time someone, I'm like, oh, that's a fun word to say. That's why I didn't think of the question.
Oh, really? So Josh has been there thinking of fun words to say.
That's what I do all
throughout the
day,
day.
That's
people.
what he
I
does,
just
yeah.
think of fun
Yeah.
words to say.
Nothing's quite coming to mind where I'm like, oh, that's the word and that's fun.
Leave it in the back of your mind. It'll
Yeah.
come to you later, right?
Yeah. What's the last show you binge watched?
Oh, it's been so long since I've been able to binge watch after having a kid, but I'm trying to remember if it was Game of Thrones or Breaking Bad.
Okay.
Okay.
I couldn't remember which one. Probably
Yeah.
Game of Thrones was the latest.
Yeah.
Those are
Good.
probably
Two good
my
ones.
two
Two
favorite
good
shows
ones.
that I'm
Yeah.
sucked into. And
Yeah.
It's just so good and plot twists. And
Yeah.
Keep watching even though you should go to bed.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Truly two of the
Yeah.
best shows that ever been on television, in
Yeah.
my opinion.
Josh
You
and I
yeah.
talked
agree?
about
I
that.
agree too.
Yeah.
And the next one, is there a song or a band that you're currently hooked on? Or is it kids
Song or
music
a
at your
band.
house?
Baby
Wheels
Shark,
on
that
the
was
Bus,
Whitney's.
Baby
Yeah.
Shark, no.
Yeah.
A song or a band. I'm really into like just talent shows. It's
Oh,
kind of
uh-huh.
funny, so
Well,
like
wait.
The Voice and things like
Yeah.
that. And so I've really loved like
Yeah.
people have built themselves from the ground up through those shows, like
Oh,
James
yeah.
Arthur.
Oh, yeah.
I think he's just so good. He has this really soulful, emotional voice
Yeah.
that I love.
All right.
The last one.
Last one is what's your favorite podcast to listen to?
My favorite podcast, the Feeling Good podcast. That's Dr. David Burns is the creator of my therapy approach.
Okay.
And so that's the trainings that I'm doing for therapists.
Okay.
And so it's a podcast for therapists and the general public alike who just want tools and tips on how to really treat depression, anxiety, and various everyday struggles.
Right. Well, like I said, we appreciate you being
Yes,
here.
thank you.
And,
Thank you so much.
Thanks for sharing your
Cool.
expertise.
Yeah, let me just remind everybody that we have another show coming up in two weeks. Yes, 2 weeks. And that will be with
So think about it.
2 weeks. That will be with Nancy Solis. And it's a really interesting topic. We're going to talk about children in recovery. And so what's interesting about this topic is that I think when a lot of people think of recovery, they don't really think of kids being in recovery. They might think of kids being
Yeah.
in therapy and things like that. But Nancy's going to talk to us specifically about that. She's a licensed marriage and family therapist and a registered play therapist, and she has a really cool resume, which we'll tell you about next week or 2 weeks when she comes back. So we will see you guys then.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.